Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith and today we're going to be playing Renegade. This is a game by Richard Wilkins, currently on Kickstarter and doing well out of the gates, and I'm very happy for him. And I want to show this game to you guys because I believe this is a perfect fit for the channel, as it is a solo playable game and it has a lot of thinking to it and a lot of strategy, and I really like games like that. It has that slight edge of that Mage Knight type feel to it where you're constantly trying to think of what the next best move is going to be. And there are quite a few moves to make in this game, and you'll see how that broadens as the game kind of goes on. So this playthrough is going to be about 12 videos, or maybe just a little short of that. We're going to play a single round every single video, and then that way it gives you guys a chance to not only comment on what's happening, but get an understanding of how this game is played, so we don't get too far ahead of any mistakes or anything that needs to be corrected, as well as just getting too far ahead to the point where you guys can't give me feedback on what you think I should do next. So for those of you that are familiar with the rules, you can chime in as well. So we're going to go ahead and begin our playthrough right now. So let's talk about Renegade first before we get going. First off, Renegade's a game where you are hackers, renegades in a dystopian future. Humanity is on the brink of disaster, and taking over cities all over Japan is the supermassive computer, or SMC, called Mother, an increasingly powerful governess of society. So she is causing serious grief for everybody, and this machine is the SMC we are currently choosing to go up against, which absolutely is insane. As you can see by the 5 skulls, it's basically telling you, don't do it, but I'm doing it anyway. And then over here, we've got the countermeasures. For the Mother, based on the notifications up here, these little nodes saying 1 copper, 2 silver, 1 gold. We've gone ahead and created our deck in the last video, so that's sitting there. We're taking on copper first, down to silver, then next gold. Right here we have Tilda Sweet, who is our renegade or hacker, with her special ability that allows me, when I'm moving, to carry 1 spark or a different colored contaminant with me, in addition to the 3 that I can normally carry. So as I move through the server, or I shouldn't say, yeah, when I move through the server, or from server to server, I can be grabbing contaminants with me, the 3 that's normal, as long as they're the same color, but I can also grab sparks and move them around, which is really cool, because if sparks start to clump up, I can kind of break that up and move one somewhere else, which is really cool ability. What you're seeing over here is the market. So earlier in the solo setup video, we had those laying down in about a pattern of 4. These are the exact same 4, but they're just sitting up now. This is going to make our hack shack, where we can purchase cards for the deck building mechanic. And that's going to come from right here. When this deck runs out, the hack shack is officially sold out. And at that point, we can't do anything about it. So the first thing we're going to do to start the game off, we're going to flip our cards and get our hand going. So let's see what we got. We got Renegade Apprentice. We have Data Scan. We have Focus. So I'm just going to move these along here so we can fit all 5 on the tray. We've got Memory Steal, okay, and Trickery Master. All right, so we got a decent assortment of cards here, not too bad. We got 1 of every color, so that's good. Okay, let's see what we can do. So the first thing we do before we start our turn is we got to take a look at our countermeasure and Mother to see if there's anything going on there that we have to inflict right away. And the Mother card says, during the start of your turn step, add 1 spark to your access point. Okay, and this gets me talking about the server just before we get going in this. So a spark is going to appear here at our access point. It's always going to appear here every single time. And you have to notice that it's going to be happening throughout the entire game, which is going to be an absolute pain, because once 3 of those sparks appear on 1 partition, we have a Guardian come into play. And we haven't talked about the win or lose conditions yet, so this is a perfect time to do it, because this is exactly what will lead to a loss. If we have 3 of these sparks become a Guardian, the Guardian goes into play. If we have spark explosions, which I'll talk about as you'll see them throughout the game, you can potentially have firewalls built. Either way, if these tokens are spent and you go to spend the 6th one, when there's only 5 in this pile, once the 6th one needs to come into the server, you lose, because there isn't a 6th one. Ha! Over here in this pile, you have a whole bunch of tokens that resemble sparks and flares. And the sparks are the black side, and the flares kind of have that flamish look on the other side, or clear look. So you put these in to play. I can have every single one of these in play, but the second I can't put another one in play, I lose. That's how you lose the game. The only way to win the game is to actually survive all the countermeasure rounds, or countermeasure cycles. So every single countermeasure card is considered a cycle. Within a cycle, you're going to do 3 rounds. And within each of those rounds, you're going to take 5 cards from your deck. You have 15 cards in your deck, so essentially that's your 3 rounds. You'll go burn through 5 cards every single round. You are allowed, as a game mechanic, to hold 1 card over round to round. So you could have 6 in some rounds, but regardless, by the time you get to the third round, you're out of cards. So that is going to be interesting. And in terms of deck building mechanic, you'll see how buying cards from the Hack Shack, when they end up in your hand, how that works, because you'd think that the deck would increase in size, but it actually goes and stays dead even, because at the end of the day, you end up deleting a card from your hand in order to acquire a card from the Hack Shack. So you'll see that in action in a few seconds. So that is how you win, and that is how you lose. We don't want to see the sparks disappear. We do not want to see the guardians or firewalls and any of that stuff disappear. We run out of those tokens, we're in trouble. But we do want to try to survive this. So we'll talk first off about our goal. The first countermeasure that we can try to succeed against, and we have this whole cycle to do so, 3 rounds. We have to try to create a neural hub. A neural hub is green and it looks like this. If we can get one of those onto one of the partitions on any of the servers, because we're playing solo, it says we just need 1, we are okay, and when we flip this card at the end of the cycle, it'll have a pass or fail condition, and it might help us or might hurt us. We'll see how it goes. In order to get one of those neural hubs on the board, you need to create uplinks. Uplinks are these tiny little green things. In order to get one of these on the board, you spend basically symbols of the same color, which are considered cognition. And so if I spend 3 of those, by spending 2 of those cards, if I spent those 2 cards, I could create this particular uplink node on a partition. But I need 3 of these just to get to the point where I can potentially go ahead and create an installation of a neural hub. So it's quite a bit of work to get there, but we'll see what we can do to get there. So now we've kind of talked about how to build some basic stuff. Let's talk about one last thing before we get playing. That is these data nodes. So I got a data node here at my access point that was based on my color and based on who I am. I'm blue, so I get this particular data node here. But the rest of them are always blue on the access points of 6. So the other thing that's very interesting about the game is you can leave them here, or you can strategically place them wherever you want. Why would you want to do that? Well, you do that to kind of daisy chain basically a train through the servers so that you're able to quickly move throughout them without spending a lot of information. These are the information symbols, and if you spend them from your hand, you're allowed to move 1 spot. Well, guess what? If you have a whole bunch of these in different partitions side by side, and like this pattern like this, 1 move can get you trucking along any of these patterns and landing on any of these spots. Done. So that's the benefit of having that, and the reason why I'm putting them in these locations as you see it. Reason being is I know first off, and you guys can see it here, look at how many sparks are in Faith server. Insane. We have 6. Over here in our home server, we know that Mother's going to constantly, it sounds funny when I say Mother's going to constantly be putting sparks in our server. So Mother's going to be doing that constantly. Every single time that happens, this server's going to get bombarded, but we always know Faith is being messed with as well, typically. And for now, based on what we're seeing here, it's the most likely to clump up and cause Guardians. So we're going to have to try to mitigate between the 2 servers, between this one's called Justice and this one's called Faith. We have to mitigate between the 2 to try to create some type of chain to move through them easily in future turns. So I've done this little daisy chain of data nodes like so. Once I've set them, I'm done. I can't change them anymore. I can only use game effects later to move them and do whatever I want with them. But they're set in stone for now. The other reason I did it like this is because I get easy access to this particular server, Salvation, and this particular server, Virtue. I don't have much access to Freedom, and that sounds kind of funny. So I actually have no freedom whatsoever. So what I'm going to need to do is do a lot of work to get over here. It might involve creating installations that allow me to jump over and all that good stuff. We'll talk about that in the future. Not worth it right now. Let's get going. So first turn of the game, we're going to take a look at our hand and see what we can do. Well, the first thing to do is to make sure you're always thinking about purchasing cards that come from the Hack Shack to make your deck stronger for future turns. Otherwise, you're just capping yourself. So what do? You take a look at the cost of some of these cards as well as some of the features in them. So this one costs 1 destruction. This one costs 2 information. This one costs 1 information. This one costs 1 cognition. Cognition. So we know that we have about 1, 2, 3 that are very cheap. Just take a single card of that particular same color and we can purchase them. So we can take a look at our hand and go, all right, we got Renegade Apprentice. It only gives us 1 destruction. Well, it's a basic card, but if we use that 1 destruction command, we can actually go ahead and purchase, because it costs 1, this particular card. And the cool thing is it's a straight swap, and it's going to give us the ability to get 2 destruction on a future turn, as well as potentially being able to delete 1 spark on a partition, on our partition, or an adjacent one. So why not? So that's going to... The other cool thing with the deck building mechanic is as soon as you go ahead and purchase a card, one of the cards you have to come out of your deck. And this goes back to what I was talking to you guys about the deck size and keeping it to 15 cards. There it is right there. You do not get that card back. It's gone. You spent it to get this card. but it keeps your hand at 15. So now we have this card here. So next I'm going to go ahead and think about what I should buy, and we can take a look at the cards here. Now we know we need the Neural Hub, and green is going along the lines of the Neural Hub, so why don't we take a look at how much it costs to get this one. It is just 1 cognition. Do we have a card that has 1 cognition? Well, we have a card that has 2 cognition. So I guess if we wanted to, which I don't really want to, out of the 2 to choose, the reason I picked this one over this one is because this right here is a leadership and it's considered a wild. And the reason why I wouldn't want to use this one is because it's actually worth more to me than this one. This one I can use it for cognition and cognition, or cognition and destruction, or like I can change that leadership color to anything I want at any time. This one I'm capped at 2 cognition. So if I spend this in order to buy this, you'll notice that it only costs 1. I'm spending 2. That 1 extra disappears. I don't get it. I don't get to use it on another action. It's gone. So we basically take this card and trash it. It is no longer part of our deck, and we gain this card. And the cool thing about this is it gains us 2 cognition, and it has an also condition, which means we not only get the 2 cognition, we get this ability. And it says when the card's used as part of an upload, you can upload 1 additional contaminant of that same type to the partition. Awesome. So that sounds good. It's a cheap way to get more of these guys onto the server. So that's good. What else can we do? Can we buy anything else? Is there anything else worth talking about? Let's see. This one's pretty cheap, but the only downside to that is, no, this one's probably better. Okay, so this one's called Read Request Intercept, and I'm looking at Data Scan. Again, exact same type of card, but gives me an extra ability. Now you'll notice that the top half of the card is typically telling you what you get for a command symbol, which lines up with these commands right here that I've already been talking about, but it also usually has text on the bottom, or sometimes it doesn't. If it says or execute, it means you either get this or you get this. Whereas the card I just gained into my hand, Adrenaline Surge, says you get this, but you also get this. Meaning that this card is even more useful when it has the word also, because you get both benefits. This one's kind of a take one or the other kind of thing, but I'm still going to do it. So I'm going to use 2 information. I'm using the leadership as another information. So 2 information to purchase this card. So this card will leave my deck, and I've now lost 3 basic cards into my deck and gotten 3 advanced into my hand, which is awesome. And from this point forward, now I can actually look at what I can do on the map. Now, the one thing that I just realized, no, I'm good, because I think everything's good. So Mother has already put the 1 spark on our particular partition at the beginning of the round, so that's always nasty. I don't know why this is over here. That shouldn't be there at all. That is a mistake. I don't even know why that's there. So disregard that. My apologies. I think that might have been flicked and just landed there. It's not there. So the only ones that are supposed to be there is Sparks on Faith and everything adjacent, as well as any closed partitions. So everything else is good. Okay. Again, sorry about that. I don't know why that one was there. It was probably very confusing. So we're going to go ahead now and start spending cards from our hand and using actions. Now, again, there's a huge actions list here that you can take a look at. You can pause it in order to try to understand it. All of these little symbols correlate up to this Renegade key code. It can be a little overwhelming, but I've got the gist of it, so we should be okay. So we're going to run through this and see what we actually do with our actions. So the one thing is we need that neural hub, and that's the main goal of this current cycle, is that we need to create that neural hub. So we're going to go ahead and use some cognition. So we're going to go ahead and use the Adrenaline Surge card here, and it's going to give us 2 cognition. As well as it gives us a benefit that says also when this card is used as part of an upload, we can gain 1 additional contaminant of that type. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and use this card with it. 2 cards together. This one's Memory Steal. It'll give us 3 cognition total and a leadership, which we can use as a wild for anything, but we do not need it because it only costs 3 cognition to create 1 uplink, which is just, which is this. And essentially we're using the upload action. Is that confusing? Yes. Okay, so we're uploading using the upload action, and we're using 3 cognition from the cards in our hand to create 1 uplink, and that uplink shows up in our partition that we currently are at with our avatar. Cool. On top of that, we get that ability that says we get an additional 1, so we get 1 for free, and that's where that advanced card really comes in handy. So now these 2 cards are discarded out of play as they were used for 1 upload action together. We have 3 cards left, so what do? Well, there's a couple things we can do. This Sidekick card's really cool, and the reason it's really cool is because it can give us 2 destruction commands. We need 3 in order to install a virus on the partition we're at, and we can use a virus when it's at a partition with a particular spark in order to combat it on a future turn. Or we can just execute to instead delete one spark on your partition or an adjacent partition. So we could just outright delete it. That might not be a bad idea. So what I think I'm going to do, just to give myself a little bit, well, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, no, I'm going to delete it. I'm going to use this to delete for sure. So I'm going to use the execute portion of the bottom half, and we're going to delete this. The reason I'm doing that is I'm going to be constantly mitigating the fact that that mother is going to constantly be hitting my access point with sparks, and I do not want that to get gummed up or bottled up real quick. So I'm going to get rid of that right away. Next up, we've got 2 more cards in our hand that we can do anything with. This one's a read request intercept. So this one would give us 1 information, which essentially allows us to move around the server, as well as a wild. Or we can execute this to place this card plus up to 2 others from your hand to the bottom of your command deck, then draw back the same amount. Okay, that's interesting. Do I want to do that? Or execute to place this card plus up to 2 other cards in your hand. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. I'm going to use the read request. I'm going to take the Trickery Master read request. We're going to shuffle these into, we're going to put these at the bottom of our deck, and we're going to draw back 2 cards and see if we get something a little bit better or a little bit maybe more useful for the end of our turn here. Oh, yikes! That didn't turn out as good as I thought. So let's take a look at. Yikes! That really didn't. So the next thought I have in my mind here is I'm thinking about where to actually install this neural hub. So at the end of the day, we have to install this neural hub somewhere. And what is the benefit we get from the neural hub? Well, when the neural hub gets installed on a server, whichever server it gets installed on, and the neural hub is this green guy right here, when we turn 3 of these uplinks into a neural hub at some point in the future, when we get more cognition or commands in order to do so, wherever we install that neural hub, so say for instance we installed it here on Justice at say 1, that would mean that from this particular location I can ghost to any other partition on the server, and that's pretty amazing. So essentially if I'm on a spot with that neural hub, then I can ghost any action to any partition on that server. So the crazy thing would be is if I could kind of maybe do it here so that so that I don't have to go all the way into Faith in order to combat all the craziness, but I could build the neural hub right here. I could kind of constantly be battling in order to try to cleaning it up and hoping that it doesn't get destroyed in the process. So maybe we can aim to have it built here. So because we're doing it here, then maybe what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and spend decrypt for 2 information, which allows us to give us 2 move. And we're going to move along our daisy chain data node system, but as well as moving along that chain, which again is free movement as you move across them. You still need to actually spend the action to get moving in the first place, but after that everything connected is free. So we can move all the way along. We can also take contaminants with us, remember. So I can bring these contaminants to here. So now we have 2 cognition in here, and then I'm ready for the next turn on the next round to begin building my neural hub right here inside of the face server, which would be perfect. Now this card right now is just 1 cognition. It's really not going to do anything for me. I can't even spend it, so it just makes more sense to hold on to it until the end of the round. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to hold on to it, which you are allowed to do. So you go ahead and discard down to 0 or 1 cards at this point when I decide my turn is over and I am done. I have no more actions I can take. So I'm discarding down to 1 card, holding on to this for next round. We draw back up to 5. We draw 5 cards right now. So I'm going to have the benefit of having 6 cards this turn, which is or next turn I should say, which is nice. So we'll have a little bit more options, which is good. And it looks like we got a decent assortment of stuff. I'll need probably a bigger tray in the next video. So that's actually pretty good. We got some decent stuff here. All right, so the next thing we do after we've kind of got the our cards back up is we do an end of turn step. So if there was any, you can see here it says start of turn on the bottom of the mother. If there happen to be any end of turn abilities or situational type stuff in the game, you deal with those now. I don't have any, so I don't have to worry about it. At this particular point, we are now done our first turn. So we're just going to go ahead and begin the start of the next one, and that's where we're going to end the video. So we're going to start the next turn right now by restocking the shack. So we'll just take the cards that were spent, and we're going to throw them behind it, and we're going to restock the shack. The hack shack's going to get a couple more things that we can use. Oh, look at that. Console Cowboy, self-modifying inhibitor, and Ginger Cool, it looks like. Nice. So we got some good options here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'll just give you a quick scan so you can read. You can always pause the video in order to see more of what I'm seeing. Okay, perfect. And then what we're going to do is something we haven't done yet, guys. We're going to roll to see where a spark goes. So what happens is you do what's considered roll for sparks. And you skip this on the very first turn, because in the very first turn the game gives you a leg up and doesn't want you to suffer too much. And Ricky wasn't trying to punish us all that badly. So what you do is you take your server die and you take your partition die. Partition is going to denote which partition this is spark is going to land in. And of course server die is which server. If it happens to land on the white, it means it's going to land on the same server you're in. So because there's already a purple, that means there's a 2 in 6 chance it's going to land on your server. So it just makes things more likely that sparks are going to show up where you are, which is just more nightmarish, I guess. Okay, so we ended up getting a green 3. So that means we're going to be up here, which is freedom. So freedom is getting a spark thrown on it up here. Now the reason we know how many times to roll this in the first place is based on the mother card, and you can take a look at the very bottom here, and it says when you're on the copper cycle, you're supposed to roll for sparks once, and then once we go to silver and gold, you'll be rolling twice. It gets nastier. So we're done our one roll, and that's good, because I don't want to see any more sparks on this network. At this very point, we are back into playing command cards. So at this point, we are pretty much right where we were in terms of now the renegades are or a renegade in our situation are able to start running with their turn. So gonna give you guys just a heads up on how this is gonna go going forward. So as of right now, we have finished cycle 1, round 1. And we're going to go through one more video after this will be cycle 1, round 2, and the video after that will be cycle 1, round 3, and that'll be the end of the first countermeasure, and then we'll go to the next one. So if we're doing one every video, we'll likely do about 12 videos. However, this one was longer because we had about 8 to 10 minutes of just kind of preamble setup gibberish. So that will be cut out, and these will become a little bit more streamlined, a little bit quicker, and not so long. So you guys will really be able to enjoy these in quick bites real quick, and then of course it's not as long as this one is. So hope you guys are enjoying. I really appreciate all the feedback. Let me know in the comments below what you think I should do next, and that's one of the reasons why I want to cut this video up the way I'm doing it, is because I want your feedback. If you know how to play this game and you want to give me a heads up on what you think I should do next, let me know in the comments below. I'll take it into consideration, and if we get enough people on board with the same idea, I'll run with it. So again, I want to congratulate Ricky Royal on a fantastic start to his Kickstarter, and I hope this is something that helps you guys make a decision on whether or not this game is a right fit for you. So until the next time, guys, keep on rolling solo.